Joel, before you go, do you know Luka's record the last 10 games against Boston?
3-7.
1-9.
Okay. I thought it was bad. Well, so now you're telling me it's really bad. I think when we talk about all-time great players, there's always a certain team they struggle against. Early LeBron struggled against the Celtics, especially in the playoffs. You had Giannis in the playoffs against the Heat for a couple of their matchups. And I think right now, Luka kryptonite, his kryptonite's the Celtics. They have defenders everywhere, and he doesn't play his best brand of basketball against them. And it's been that way for a while now, since they've gotten really, really good. But I also don't think this is the best Luka that we've seen. I don't think Luka looks the same. And I think it's been a while since he looked the same since last year before the start of the playoffs. And that's not saying that he's not great, because he's still a great player and he has made adjustments to his game. But if you've been watching Luka for a year, it just feels like certain spots, they're tougher for him to get to. And you look at the percentage of shots that he has at the rim. This year it's at 15.6%. Last year it was at 16%. But what's went down have been the drives. This year he's at 14.7 drives per game. Last year he was at 17.8 drives per game. So that's about, a 3.5 drive difference. And when we talk about early Luka, his second year when he was already an MVP candidate, 30.7% of his shots were at the rim, and he was driving to the basket almost 21 times per game. So I feel like he's definitely traded off the speed and agility for being more of a post player. But I don't know if that's where he's at his best. I think it is at his best where he is slimmer and he's able to play faster. But right now, I don't think it's his weight that's really bothering him. I think it's the hamstring. And then he was playing with a bad back yesterday, and he had a heat pad on it, I think, in like the third quarter before he got into the game in the fourth quarter. So I don't think he's playing at his best still. And I don't know when that same Luka is going to show up. But until that Luka shows up, I don't think he is as dominant on a game-to-game basis as these other players at the top.
You said he was going to show up against Boston.
Tweeted it out.
He did.
He did kind of.
Fourth quarter he showed up, Riv. I'll give him that. Fourth quarter he showed up. First three quarter he was out there.
When it's dropping 30, not showing up.
Yeah, this is funny. This is insane.
Joel, when we were watching the game yesterday, you and I came to the same conclusion. We're watching early on, and when he switches on to Horford, all he simply has to do is drive to the basket. Now, I'll give it to Horford. He did a great job of staying in front of Luka for a good portion. However, there were a lot of times where it seemed as if he was trying to do too much. Instead of just go up, get an attempt, either one, make it, two, get to the free throw line. It seemed as if he was hesitant. He was trying to pass the ball, and he wasn't looking to get his. Later in the game, we saw him start to be more aggressive, start to take the attempts at the basket, and that's when we really saw him start to get going. I think that it was a matter of overthinking the matchup, trying to make a play when it wasn't necessary, just needing to know when to go up. And I spoke about that earlier when Luka first came to the Lakers. We saw him start to get more and more comfortable. I think he kind of reverted back a little bit in these first few quarters, but when LeBron went out, it seemed as if he was a lot more confident in just putting up a basket, and that's when we really saw him start to take over. It needs to be now in his mind while LeBron's gone, and then inevitably when LeBron does come back, I'm still Luka. I still know that this is an efficient shot. I know that I'm still the best offensive player. It does not matter who's matched up on me. I need to take advantage of these mismatches.
The thing about Luka is I feel like his blow-up games now, when he's playing at an elite level, they're very reliant on shooting threes. If he's not having a good night from three, he's not going to have one of those dominant performances where I feel like other players, they're not so reliant on the three ball falling. And because Luka, I think he's just lost some burst, and I think he eventually will get back to himself, but he's just not there right now. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not watching the same player. I'm not watching the same dominant player that I was watching last year before he got injured. It's just not the same. And I don't know when that player's going to come back, but right now, I think the lack of burst off the dribble, like you mentioned about Al Horford, I think that's something that, he should consistently be beating him off the dribble and getting to the basket. And he doesn't. He settles. And dating back to the finals matchup, how many times was Horford on him and he settled for a tough three? I just think right now that's what he's dealing with.
I think you mentioned something important, Drew. Joel. I don't know if there's going to be a moment this season where he's going to get time to heal up. I think right now, especially with LeBron out, Playoffs are gearing up. We got like 15, 20 games left, and you're still the Lakers aren't comfortably the second seed. You're still hovering between 2 to 4. I think you're like a game or two above 3 right now. So, all these games are going to matter in terms of just placing your seeding. And I think for Luka, with LeBron out, he has to kind of ramp it up. But I want to give all the credit in the world to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, because not only did they show up on the defensive side, but they literally dominated on the offensive end. I mean, it was a complete get to the rim whenever they wanted to, get to the mid-range spot, exploit the mismatch, be good in transition, take advantage of the opportunities that they had. I mean, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, this is like their third game in like a week or two where they've combined for 70+ points, and they've woke up and decided we're going to go dominate this game. And they took this one as a challenge. Boston Lakers is a historic rivalry, especially when both teams at the top of the conference. You want to wake up and have this game feel like one of those get-ups games. And I feel like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum came to show up. I feel like Luka was struggling in the first half, and that was partly one of the reasons why they were down. Also, the Lakers defensively just couldn't figure out the Jays. I mean, they were letting them get easy mismatches. I didn't see a ton of doubles. I didn't see a ton of, switches and good switches, I want to say. And yeah, the Lakers didn't have Jackson Hayes, but the Celtics didn't have Porzingis. So realistically, it looks like a fine matchup to me, and I do think going forward with Luka, I don't know when he's going to be able to get healthy or when he's going to be able to, heal up from whatever injury it is, whether it be the knee or the back. I did see him take a fall and he was holding his back for a little bit throughout the game, and I did see the moment where he had the healing pads on. It's really just, he's in a tough situation where he has no real, especially from last summer playing, overseas and then coming straight to play. Like, there is no real time for him to get healthy like he needs to if he is actually really, really hurt. But credit to the Jays, credit to Boston. They came out, they showed out. The Jays did what they needed to do. And, they've probably heard the best duo in the league talks, and they probably are frustrated why people don't put them in number one. And they just came and they showed
for you, Riv? Where would they be for you?
Probably one, because they won the chip. I'd probably put them one.
Have some damn respect. Tell these guys.
Hindsight is 2020. Riv would have been on a podcast putting them number 3.
Nah, I'll probably
put Giannis and Dame.
Giannis and Dame. I'll probably put them 3.
Riv, fine matchup, but we didn't have Rui or Jackson. They did miss KP. I agree with you. At the same time, they had everyone else.
I mean, you had everybody else but Rui and Jackson Hayes.
And then LeBron also missed down the stretch.
John,
they got to a 4-point game without LeBron being in there.
I agreed. That's why
despite the Celtics outplaying them up until that stretch, pretty.
John, what more does Jason Tatum have to do?
That's a great question, Joel. This was a great game by him and Jaylen Brown. It was an impressive win nonetheless. Another moment in time where we've kind of seen the Celtics have a good formula to defending Luka, as you guys highlighted so well. Luka's coming off that left calf injury, which he's still trying to get comfortable playing off of, being able to trust his body, and he's also seemingly playing his way into shape in a brand new situation. So it hasn't been the same Luka, of course. And to go along with that, the Lakers have had to embrace that next minute mentality. A lot of guys having to come into the lineup. Trey Jemison coming in off the bench, contributing a little bit. No Jackson Hayes in this game. It changes the entire blueprint of the lineup because now you have to play LeBron up and Luka up. So I believe that with how thin the Lakers rotation is, that core 6 to 7 guys, they, in a game like this, missing 2.5 starters at a certain point in time, 3 with LeBron going out, it kind of compromised what they have been doing so well up until this point. But I will say, kind of in the bigger picture view, they need to make sure LeBron comes back 100%. They should take their time with him resting. I know they have the Nuggets and the Bucks, but really what matters more than that is LeBron being healthy for the playoffs. We saw back in 2019 with the groin injury how much time he missed. You don't want to play with that because of how easy it is to re-aggravate. But in the meantime, Dells, I mean, Celtics look damn good. And how about Payne Pritchard and Derek White a couple nights before, man?
Second best.
40 apiece. Wish they showed up.
We should talk about the real duo.
That's going to be a great trivia question.
White.
Second best team in the East. That was talk.
Second best team. That's facts. Cleveland's got it right now. I will say, I thought there's a lot of talk on the internet, and it's just the internet. I don't think it's real about the minutes that Tatum played, Brown, Horford. Like, the Celtics treated this as a playoff game. They did. And I think they should have. There's really, before this game, there was 2 games that matter on the Celtics schedule the rest of the season. It's this Lakers game Saturday, and it's OKC on Wednesday. Other than that, you're not playing anybody else. Like, you have the Knicks in April, but with all due respect, handle business there.
Damn.
Other than that, we don't got anybody else to really play for. We're playing the last 15 games, teams that we won't be seeing in the playoffs more likely than not. So I do want to see these games where you're playing a possible finals opponent, a possible ECF opponent. Yeah, let's see these playoff minutes. Tatum played the entire first quarter. He played into the second quarter. Al Horford played 37 minutes. Jaylen Brown played 42 minutes. And I think it's dope that Mazzulla allowed that, number one, because he even said after the game, he got asked about the minutes, and he said, like, listen, it's Lakers Celtics. Like, this is the biggest rivalry in the NBA. It's the most historic one, and these guys are playing for their legacy. So, yeah, Jason Tatum, if it's a 4-point game down the stretch, you're not coming out in the second half. You need to prove, and you need to go out there and win that game. So I thought it was dope that they played the heavy minutes. I thought it was dope that they treated it like a playoff game, because you don't get a lot of opportunities like this to really ready yourself for a playoff series. Once the playoffs are here, the playoffs are here, and it's hard to replicate that atmosphere and, you know, just that overall like attention to detail you need. So I think it was important that they did it, and I wouldn't be surprised that again Wednesday against OKC.